Sixth grade lesson 6.5 is problem solving using for distance, rate, and time using formulas. Formulas are just like the cheat sheet where you fill in things. It tells you what things you need to fill in. You plug in the numbers that you know, and then you play through. You calculate it out to find the missing information. So that's all that formulas are. So don't let that word throw you off. So we're going to be given 3 different formulas to find either distance, rate, or time. They're interrelated. If you knew one, you could manipulate things to solve the other. But we're going to talk about distance. Distance is a length, usually things like meters, miles, kilometers, feet, yards, inches is how that's going to be represented. Rate is a comparison of 2 items. And when we're talking about distance and time, we're usually talking about miles per hour, kilometers per hour, feet per minute, things like that. And time is a representation of how long it took, an hour, a minute, things like that. So those are labels you'll see go with those. Here's the formulas that will help you in the relationship of distance, rate, and time will help you calculate what you're missing. So if you read through something and you realize that they are needing to, they're asking you how far did they travel, you would solve for distance, and you would get that by putting down the rate and multiply that by time. So in a word problem or in a situation, if they ask me about distance, then probably they've given me a rate and a time in there. I fill in what the rate is, I fill in what the time is, and then I multiply them together, and there's my answer. If they want us to find the rate, how many miles per hour were they traveling, something like that, then you will use the reverse of this formula. I'm looking for rate this time, and we all kind of know that when I have 2 numbers multiplied that give me an answer, I can undo that by dividing the other 2 with each other. So we know those fact families sort of well, I think. So I would take rate if I'm looking for rate, and I would do the distance divided by time. Distance divided by time. And so if they ask me for rate, then probably somewhere in the situation they've given me the distance and they've given me the time, and I would just need to divide the distance divided by the time. And on the same note, if they gave me the time that was traveled, then I would take the distance and divide it by the rate with the information that's provided to me. Let's see this in action. Okay, so we have this problem here in our book. We have, and they gave us the same thing I have here. I took from right here. They gave us those. They give it to us on the next page too, just to have it handy. Helena drives 220 miles to visit Niagara Falls. She drives at an average speed of 55 miles per hour. How long does the trip take? Underline the question they're asking me. They're asking me how long does the trip take? And when we talk about how long the trip takes, we're talking about in terms of time. We are looking for time. She drives 220 miles to visit Niagara Falls, and she drives at a rate of, or a speed of 55 miles per hour. If we need to draw the pictures, here's her car. Cool car. She drives 220 miles. That's the distance to Niagara Falls. Let's do the falls. Almost as nice as their picture there. She's driving 55 miles for every 1 hour that she travels. And we don't know how long it takes. I'm going to put that picture as a clock, I think. How long does that take? Okay. So because I'm looking for how long that takes, I'm going to use the formula for time. Time equals distance divided by the rate. And then I'm just going to plug in the numbers that I know. I know the distance is 220 miles. So for D, I will substitute 220. I know the rate is 55 miles per hour, so for R, I'm just going to write in 55. And if I do that calculation, that will give me how long it took. 220 divided by 5 is 4. I didn't know that off the top of my head. I had done that earlier. So it's going to take her 4 hours. And if you're thinking, gosh, that seemed kind of easy, you're right. It should start to feel pretty easy. You're just plugging in numbers that they give you. If you choose the right formula, plug in the numbers and then calculate. So they gave us the formulas here again. Distance equals rate times time. Or if you're looking for rate, then you do distance divided by time. Or if you're looking for time, you do distance divided by rate. Let's see what we're looking for. Santiago's class traveled to the Museum of Natural Science for a field trip. To reach the destination, the bus traveled at a rate of 65 miles per hour for 2 hours. What distance did Santiago's class travel? There's our question. So clearly we're looking for D. We're going to want to use the formula D equals rate times time. What information were we given? To reach their destination, the bus traveled at a rate. They even told us that was rate. 65 miles per hour. Sometimes they won't use the word rate, but you'll start to get used to knowing which one is the rate because it's always per something. So we're doing 65 miles per hour, so that's our rate. So instead of R, I will substitute 65. And they did that for 2 hours. That's a representation of time. And if I use that formula, plug in those two pieces of information, now I just have to play. I just do the calculation. 65 times 2 is 130. The distance they traveled is 130 miles. So the biggest part of this lesson is getting familiar with these formulas to use on distance, rate, and time questions, knowing which one represents the rate. Usually a rate has per involved there, so that helps. Knowing what represents a time, you're going to see labels of time, minutes, seconds, hours, whatever, and then recognizing the labels for distance, miles, feet, So you'll get more comfortable with practice at these. And then you'll just find out, okay, what am I looking for? This time we were looking for distance. Next time we might be looking for time, or another time we might be looking for rate. Figure out what you're looking for in the question, and then choose the proper formula and work it through. So hopefully you find that go pretty smoothly, but you know where to find me.